Happening now, a convicted rapist who abused several children in Chautauqua County will spend the rest of his life in prison. Why prosecutors say this sets an example to other predators in our area. And efforts to hire more firefighters and purchase a second ambulance in Jamestown continue. Plus, a local business now relocated to the Jamestown airport. We're hearing from the owner looking to take advantage of a new high-flying opportunity.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. Those stories and more are coming up, but first, a convicted child rapist will spend the rest of his life in prison, following a Monday sentencing that Chautauqua County prosecutors hope send a message to other child predators in our community. Alyssa Wright joins us live in studio with more from prosecutors today. Alyssa?
Judge David Foley sentenced Dustin Post to 125 years to life in state prison after he was convicted on several counts of child sex abuse and rape crimes involving 5 children, all under the age of 12 years old. Local law enforcement hope the sentencing will help victims find peace to heal and send a message to other predators countywide.
This started as a walk-in complaint after a child had disclosed to her mother what occurred, and then Investigator Landwehr was assigned that investigation, and he started to follow up and also contacted his counterpart at HSI, Homeland Security Investigations.
A few of Post's victims testified against him in a feat of strength and courage.
You're talking about victims of child sexual trauma, and to relive these events is re-traumatizing them. And we did everything that we could to try to avoid this occurring, and we made a decision that the best course forward to protect the community, to vindicate these children for what was done to them.
These kids are superheroes, and everything that they've done, every step that they've taken has just been remarkable.
The investigation team felt the best way to help these young, innocent victims was to make sure their attacker couldn't hurt anyone again.
So what we were looking for was a sentence to run consecutive with that to ensure that Mr. Post would never see the light of day, that he would just always be incarcerated, because there's just no protecting the community if he stood the risk of being paroled at some point way in the future.
Our MDT is really important, and I think that this case really showcases our multidisciplinary team and the work that we're doing in the community, you know, in each aspect, each discipline, each agency, to provide healing, hope, and justice for our children and our families.
On Child Abuse Prevention Month, the Chautauqua County Child Advocacy Program urges anyone suspecting child abuse or mistreatment to call the Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-342-3720. In studio, Alyssa Wright, WNY News Now.
All right, Alyssa, thank you very much. A Jamestown resident accused of assaulting an inmate at the county jail while incarcerated there has been sentenced in connection with the crime. The Chautauqua County District Attorney's Office says Scott Eddy was sentenced in connection with the attempted assault on Monday. The 23-year-old will serve up to 4 years in state prison as part of an intermediate term handed down by County Court Judge David Foley. The attack took place back in November 2022 while Eddy was confined in the jail on an unrelated crime. Local law enforcement are requesting additional information before okaying the purchase of a second ambulance for the City of Jamestown Fire Department. Our Bronson Rasmussen joins us live from the newsroom with more on the likelihood of this additional ambulance purchase. Bronson?
Justin, the vehicle itself costs $150,000 with an additional $100,000 needed in equipment. The final purchase would be a similar build to the city's current ambulance.
Our intent would be that whichever vendor we ultimately, receive a bid from, or multiples, whoever the bid is awarded to, we would certainly request that they would install their load system as part of the package. The extrication device, the stair chair, that's a separate piece also. Currently, Jamestown Fire Department has one, and it's in the ambulance, and it is a required piece in order to safely extricate people down stairwells. We'll certainly need to put a fire radio, a med radio, and have a portable radio be available for that vehicle, so there's some costs that could be expected there.
Jamestown Fire Chief Matthew Kuhn goes on to say the second ambulance is necessary to keep up with ever-growing need for EMT services.
These are all the calls that we've had over the last few years, all right, that we've had to rely on our neighbors to answer for us. So this is really the overflow, and as you can see, it has been increasing steadily since 2019. I've got no reason to believe that a number will not exceed 500 by the time we get to the end of this year.
While there is not always a Jamestown ambulance available, crews are still expected to be on scene.
So even if a mutual aid agency is coming in, a piece of Jamestown Fire Department equipment should be going to that call also. So our own providers are there to do first response, just like we do with All-Star.
In addition to the second ambulance, lawmakers also looked at a proposal to add 8 new firefighters to the roster, which would ultimately operate the new vehicle. While the increase in personnel would help, the chief says it's not necessarily connected.
Having the additional personnel is certainly going to make this process go much smoother, as well as not reducing down, obviously, the firefighting force that we have available.
Now, both the proposals were passed through Public Safety, but not through the Finance Committee, as members wanted more information on the costs of operating an ambulance compared to the revenue that it brings in. Now, if the council does approve the purchase of a second ambulance this month, the fire chief believes that it could be deployed in as soon as 2 months. Reporting live in the newsroom, Bronson Rasmussen, WNY News Now.
All right, Bronson, thank you for that update. The Jamestown Airport is welcoming a new business to its passenger terminal.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right.
Studio D Catering and the venue will now call the building home after previously being located in downtown Jamestown since 2015. Now, the owners say they were forced to move after the lease for their original building expired. The restaurant features a traditional dine-in experience as well as opportunities for private parties. In addition, the location also houses 716 Boutique, which features a variety of products from local artisans and vendors.
We're going to have anywhere, hopefully up to 15 total by the end of the year. Local artisans. Chautauqua County is known for very artistic people. And so this gives them the opportunity to grow their business and possibly open up a storefront.
Certainly exciting there. The business officially opens their doors to the public today. Well, an elevated fire risk gets in place for Chautauqua and Cattaraugus County this afternoon. The National Weather Service in Buffalo says a high-pressure system centered over the East Coast combined with a weak cold front over Canada will bring gusty winds and dry conditions. As a result, the risk for brush and other wildfires is enhanced. Our Jackson Hickey joins us from the First Defense Weather Center today with more on what we're seeing here, Jackson, and why it's so important for people that really do the right thing when they're outside.
Yeah, Justin, as you mentioned, the Weather Service has issued this special weather statement that is in effect for all of Western New York. Further to the east, they actually have a red flag warning. That's an even higher risk of any fires that could result from, dry conditions that we've fortunately seen. It's been pleasant, but that is one of the downsides to it, of course. So here's the high pressure you were talking about down here. It's actually a large area, a ridge of high pressure, and then the low pressure system up here with the cold front trailing it. When you get that pressure gradient, that's where you can get some of those winds. So some of the details, again, as I said, that front, it can bring winds 15 to 30 miles an hour, and we are expecting gusts potentially up to 45 miles per hour today. You may realize, we've had very little recent precipitation, so that has kept us dry, which, is nice, but again, this is one of the downsides to that. And then dew points today expected to not even get out of the 30s, so that's, comfortable, but very dry, and it makes it a lot easier for any flames to spread, unfortunately. And then that statewide burn ban is in effect until May 14th, so don't be burning any garbage or anything outside today. Radar over the past 3 hours showing really not much, a few stray clouds, but otherwise we are dry and pretty clear. And that'll continue for most of the day. Today, highs mid-60s to low 70s, partly to mostly sunny skies, warmer inland from the lake as we were yesterday, and again, those winds southwest 15 to 30 miles per hour. I'll have some more details coming up, including some rain possible over the weekend. Justin, what's coming?
All right, Justin, thank you. As we continue with the winter weather breaking, more crews, they'll be out on the roads for their annual repairs. This all has prompted a renewed road safety push. And later, the Buffalo Bills' DeMar Hamlin, he's pushing for more CPR training and AED access, taking the fight to lawmakers in our nation's capital. Stay with us. WNY News Now. We'll be right back.
With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor.
Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
On this episode of Lead and Lures, pro staffer and lethal lady Caitlin Armstrong takes out her big Ohio buck. Months of hard work, dedication, and scouting have led her to this moment. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Lead and Lures on Channel 716 Roku TV. And if you want to see more of Caitlin Armstrong, follow her on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Caitlin Armstrong.
Land has been quite the experience.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer, plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
The state budget continues into overtime. Our New York Capitol correspondent Elise Klein is talking to lawmakers and gives us an update on where the process is now.
The legislature passes another budget extender 2 weeks past the original budget deadline. The budget extender sets a new deadline of April 17th. Some lawmakers say negotiating changes to the bail law continues to consume most of the oxygen in the room. Governor Hochul's proposals on bail in her original budget plan include eliminating the least restrictive means, a standard for judges to set bail. Some lawmakers support Hochul's proposal, saying judges need more discretion to set bail.
We think that dangerousness standard needs to be part of it and give that judges the discretion they need to keep our community safe.
While others disagree, saying bail does not contribute to levels of crime.
This is the difficulty that you have in trying to deal with a perception problem when the data is up all across the nation, even in states, like I said, that have a dangerousness standard, they have pretrial detention. None of those things have been able to solve the issue of crime going down.
Heastie also says the legislature has not made any significant progress on negotiation conversations surrounding bail. In Albany, Elise Klein, WNY News Now.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul has nominated Rowand Wilson as the chief judge for the state's highest court, her second candidate for the job. Wilson is a Harvard Law School graduate who currently serves as an associate judge of the Court of Appeals, a position he's held since 2017. Hochul's nomination of Wilson comes after Hector LaSalle, her initial pick for the judge seat, was rejected by Democrats in her own party in favor of a judge with a more politically progressive record. LaSalle's supporters said he was being unfairly targeted by the left and that his judicial opinions were being misconstrued. If approved, Wilson would become the first black person to hold the position. Officials with the PennDOT Turnpike Commission and the state police are preparing for National Work Zone Awareness Week, which officially kicks off next Monday. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, they discussed the importance of driving cautiously in work zones and the consequences if you don't. According to PennDOT, speed cameras have reduced speed by 17% in work zones where present. The cameras captured the license plates of vehicles exceeding the work zone speed limit by 11 or more miles per hour with workers present, which can result in up to a $150 fine. Officials say it's going to be a busy construction season and that drivers need to stay alert for changing patterns and conditions.
You're going to see more work zones. You're going to see more orange barrels, orange cones, channelizing devices. Motorists traveling through the work zone have to pay attention because these patterns often change weekly, daily, sometimes every few hours.
Since 1940, over 130 PennDOT and Turnpike workers have lost their lives while improving Pennsylvania's infrastructure. Well, in January, people across the nation were unified in hoping Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin recovered after suffering a cardiac arrest during a game. A quick response saved Hamlin's life, and now he's taking this opportunity to advocate for more CPR training and access to AEDs. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Rachel Knapp has more.
We are so humbled and inspired by what I feel is an opportunity that God has given me to help and protect young people based on what I experienced.
Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills safety who suffered a cardiac arrest during a Bills game in early January, recently visited the U.S. Capitol, advocating for the Access to AEDs Act. It's a grant program to support CPR and AED training in K-12 schools, buy AEDs for schools, establish cardiac emergency response plans, and promote the importance of defibrillation in schools.
This legislation that will focus on schools is a really important piece of the entire plan to create a nation of lifesavers.
Nancy Brown, the CEO of the American Heart Association, says 350,000 people in the U.S. experience sudden cardiac arrest outside of the hospital each year, and 1 in 300 kids have an undetected heart condition that puts them at risk. Student athletes are more likely to experience cardiac arrest.
Access to CPR and AEDs is the difference between life and death.
Sporting a signed Hamlin jersey, New York Senator Chuck Schumer praised Hamlin and others for advocating for this legislation.
They've dedicated themselves to making sure no child, no family, no community should go through what they did.
Hamlin says when he played football as a kid, he never thought about CPR or where an AED was at his school. He hopes this legislation changes that for others.
The Access to AEDs Act will help ensure that schools are just as prepared and trained to respond in a time of crisis as those on the sideline of an NFL game.
At the Capitol, Rachel Knapp reporting.
Rachel, thank you. Coming up next, we take a full look at our weather forecast as some beautiful weather stays locked in this week. Jackson has the details right after this.
With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
Have you ever wanted to live out your dreams? Hunt, fish, in all corners of the earth? Well, now's your chance. Follow Primitive Patriot Outdoors as we live out our dreams and show you how to live out yours through outdoor adventures. From Western New York to Africa to all corners of the earth, follow us on this adventure. It's an experience you've never seen before. Lead and Lures, Roku TV, Channel 716.
Slow down, and move over.
Move over.
When you see signs,
Lights,
Vests.
please give us some room.
slow down.
Slow down and move over.
When you need help,
It's our job
to help you,
to save you.
despite the danger.
This danger is real. Do your part.
Please
Slow down. Slow down. And move over.
move over.
WNY News Now is covering stories that matter to you.
15-year-old Yadiel Diaz was subject to a public humiliation stunt by a fellow student in an act of violence and bullying. Now Yadiel's mother, Raquel, has had enough.
Officials are trying to work with the county's homeless coalition To help support the homeless population locally, there are also plans in the works to build 2 new shelters.
WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Fast, accurate, and everyday. First Defense Weather.
Welcome back to WNY News Now. A look outside in Jamestown, beautiful conditions, and we will look to keep it that way for much of this upcoming week. Right now at the Jamestown Airport, 62 degrees, already up to 20-mile-an-hour winds from the west, though, and as I said earlier, that's going to contribute greatly to that fire risk today. Visibility not an issue, though, 10 miles and dew point pretty low right now, 29 degrees, so very comfortable but dry out there. Look at the almanac. Yesterday we got up to 59 degrees officially at the Jamestown Airport, down to 26 overnight, so it was cool, and that's what can happen when you lose some of that cloud cover overnight. You can cool down quite a bit. Average today, 55 for the high and for the low, 32. We will be well above that for sure. Record 81. We won't get near that. We'll be kind of close, but not up in the 80s. And looking at satellite and radar, again, that high pressure has moved just barely to the south, and that will bring us some more wind, but it'll funnel in some warm air as well. And then that cold front to our north, again, will bring us some of that wind as well. But otherwise, are really perfect conditions. Timing out on future scan, this model is showing perhaps a couple scattered showers. I think it's exaggerating that, though. I don't think we'll really see any rain, but there's a chance for an isolated sprinkle. Nothing impactful, though. And then as we go throughout tonight, that'll clear out. Clouds clear out throughout tomorrow morning, and really shaping up to be a beautiful day for Wednesday. Not even any cloud cover on this model, so really perfect conditions. And then as we head into Thursday, will remain pretty nice, as it will be for most of this week. As you can see on the extended forecast brought to you by day, low 70s, and then tomorrow will still be in the low 70s, just a bit higher. And then as we get into the end of the week, still sunny with temperatures in the upper 70s, perhaps near 80 on Friday. But as we get into the weekend, as I said yesterday, some rain perhaps in the forecast, but we'll still be quite warm until we get to Monday, where we'll be back around average. But otherwise, a really amazing week ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be trying to cut out of work early this week. Jackson, thank you very much. Well, let's get some headlines from around the nation. And former President Donald Trump is expected to sit for a deposition Thursday in a civil case against him. The lawsuit was filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James. It alleges that he and his children were involved in financial fraud at the Trump Organization that lasted more than a decade. Trump was previously deposed in the investigation in August when he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights to not answer more than 400 questions. He may do that again, but a couple things are different this time. First, James filed charges in September, so Trump's legal team now has more knowledge about the allegations against him. And second, Trump has made changes to that charges that his team has since reviewed. Then a jury in the case is allowed to hold invoking the Fifth Amendment against a defendant in some scenarios. A mass shooting at a bank in Louisville, Kentucky, Monday has left 5 people dead and several others injured, including a 26-year-old rookie officer who just graduated from the police academy. Officer Nicholas Wilt was shot in the head while engaging with the shooter. He remains in critical condition. Ivan Rodriguez has more.
A community in mourning.
We pray God just will spark us.
Following another mass shooting in America. According to officials, 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon was live streaming on Instagram when he opened fire on his colleagues during a staff meeting at Old National Bank Monday morning, killing at least 5 and injuring several others. Police arrived on the scene while he was still firing.
At 8:38, there's a report of shots fired at Old National Bank. Officers were on scene within 3 minutes. The suspect shot at officers. We then returned fire and stopped that threat. The suspect is deceased.
A source close to the investigation says Sturgeon recently learned he was being fired after working at the bank full-time for more than a year. One of the victims, 63-year-old Tommy Elliott, remembered by Kentucky lawmakers who knew him.
Tommy touched a lot of lives.
Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad.
Members of the community are calling for action.
Somebody's family doesn't have a loved one tonight.
after yet another shock of gun violence.
And my worry is that everybody will raise their fist in anger and mourn, and then in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we go back to doing the same nothing.
In Louisville, Kentucky, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
The national emergency powers for COVID-19 are officially over, more than 3 years after it was declared by then President Trump. The White House says President Joe Biden signed legislation Monday that ended the national emergency for COVID. The White House had opposed the measure, but did say that the president will sign it if it passed. The administration had planned to end the national emergencies on May 11th, which is also when the public health emergency is set to expire. That still remains in effect for more than a month. White House officials say the administration had been winding down pandemic-related authorities over the past 3 months. Well, coming up next, with allergy season upon us, we're hearing from medical experts and weather professionals about how to avoid that itchy pollen.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
There's an old saying, there's no news in the newsroom. Well, it's true. The time I spend at the anchor desk is just part of my day. Most of our time is spent gathering stories in the community, stories that matter to you. We can't do it alone, and we need your help. When you see breaking news or have a news tip we should know about, drop us a line on Facebook today, email our news desk, or call our newsroom at 488-7226 so we can bring those stories straight back to you.
On this episode of Lead and Lures, pro staffer and lethal lady Caitlin Armstrong takes out her big Ohio buck. Months of hard work, dedication, and scouting have led her to this moment. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Lead and Lures on Channel 716 Roku TV. And if you want to see more of Caitlin Armstrong, follow her on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
You know, hunting
Caitlin
on
Armstrong.
private land has been quite the experience.
Well, as the weather warms up and flowers start to bloom, allergy season, it's starting to become a major issue once again. Pretty soon, many in our region will start feeling the uncomfortable feels of a scratchy throat, stuffy nose, and watery eyes. WNY News Now's Tom Kowalski has more.
If you suffer from allergies, it's likely you already start feeling the usual symptoms: a ticklish throat, stuffy nose, or watery eyes. According to our own Dakota Hunter, it seems this could be just beginning.
Well, this pollen season likely could be pretty nasty. And I mean, you know, we are a pretty high pollen area around here when it comes to trees, and obviously with the dust and mold pollen. So again, you know, the pollens already are running pretty moderate when it comes to the tree pollen because the trees are starting to bud now.
And according to experts, due to climate change, pollen output is likely to get worse over time.
From what I've seen, like the projections, they do say that, you know, as the years go on, it is going to be worse and worse in terms of how much pollen is released into the air. A lot of climate change experts saying that that's the reason that there's more pollen being released every year. So definitely the projections are showing that it's going to be worse as the years go on.
Pharmacist Sierra Bodner says there's plenty of good, over-the-counter options to fight allergies, but she recommends avoiding one brand specifically.
Steering away from Benadryl use as an allergy medication, I think, is important, just because although it is an antihistamine and it is technically for allergies, it can make you extremely drowsy, and it's not really something you can take one of and it lasts you. It only lasts like 4 to 6 hours. The Flonase is honestly probably the most effective, but you know, not everyone likes to use the nasal spray. So if you're going for a tablet or something easier, then I would say usually Zyrtec.
Tom Kowalski, WNY News Now.
Hi, Tom. Thank you very much. As an allergy sufferer, Jackson, I can relate. And the Flonase does help. I mean, she's not wrong. It clears up your nose and at least lets me breathe. Scratchy throat, though, it's the thing. It's not today, thankfully.
Yeah, I get bad seasonal allergies as well. It's not a fun time, I'm sure, for most.
No, but we can only hope that the pollen forecasts stay low, and they say rain helps, right? I think it washes it away.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a wives' tale or not.
No, it's certainly true. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you and Dakota. And
yeah, good to see Dakota there.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. Of course, the news continues 24/7 at WNYNewsNow.com. We'll leave you with this live look outside of our studio. I see a little pollen out there on that micro cam. If you missed anything we talked about, check us out online at WNYNewsNow.com and in our free mobile app.